Hi, everyone, and welcome. JJWalsh here. This is Seek Sustainable Japan special episode in the middle of the day. Welcome. It's nice to have you here. And today we have two very special guests talking about a new docu-series that they are doing a Kickstarter for. They've already done the first episode called We Exist Japan. We're talking about LGBTQ plus issues, diversity, inclusion, so much important stuff. Thank you so much for joining, Felicity and Tiffany. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having us on, JJ. And lunchtime podcasts are always nice. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Yeah,
JJ. Thank you for joining, for inviting us. It's good to be back on your show.
yeah, right. Tiffany, you were on my show ages ago. Felicity, it seems like ages ago too.
Seems
How
like
does
ages.
time pass so quickly? You guys are both right in it right now with the Kickstarter. How's it going so far?
We have been so humbled by all of the support. It's been just under 2 weeks, and the community has really come out strong behind us. Our friends, our family, our community groups like Kyoto Journal, Writers in Kyoto, Few Kansai. So many people reaching out and offering support. It's been a ride, but it's been wonderful.
That's fantastic. Now, just to give the audience a little background on you guys, Felicity, you are a photographer, a filmmaker, and this project, you are the editor and director. Is that right?
That's right, exactly. Yeah, so I've been based in Kansai for the past 18 years, and I've been in Kyoto for the last eight. And I've done a feature film, and I've got a YouTube channel. And then this is quite a big project that I'm working with my collaborator Tiffany on.
How did you guys meet to start this project? I
Oh,
wanna hear that after Tiffany. Introduce yours and give us some background on you first.
this is great that you reminded me about how we met because the reason how I met Felicity, I met her one time through it was during COVID. It was during pandemic, and there's a filmmakers event going on online, and that's how I joined because um I wanted to meet the local people from the filmmakers industry because I started being an actor, and then that's how where I connected with Felicity. But then we didn't really connect that much, and then I saw her interview on your show because I was watching your show. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know that, she lived in Koyasang and all that. And I went to Koyasang and I remembered commenting on while you guys are talking that it just resonated with me. And then that's it. Like from then, like we just got connected and then we met in person when I was visiting in Kyoto and we did collaboration and now the documentary. It's been amazing.
So, it's all thanks to me.
It
I'm
is.
so happy to hear
You're a connector.
That's amazing. I love it. I'm just putting links here. So, What's Next Japan, Felicity, that's your YouTube channel.
We're next Japan.
Oh, Where Next Japan. Sorry, I
That's,
wrote what.
everybody always, yeah, no worries at all.
And the Kickstarter. And let's remind people in the beginning and the end about the Kickstarter, because that's really the main reason we want to
Mm.
get the plug out right now. So, tell us some of the dates, some of your targets. Go
Mhm.
ahead.
So our Kickstarter is going to finish on the 19th of November. So we have a little bit more time, but it'll disappear in a flash. And then we're going to be doing some screening events after the Kickstarter is finished. So in the first week of December, if you're in Kyoto, especially the 5th of December, we'll have a beautiful screening at Ryukoku University with a full cinema. And we'll also be screening at Doshiso University. We're going to be screening at an international school. So the first week of December, we have lots of screenings. So keep your eyes out for that. The Kickstarter, we're going to be sending out more rewards this coming week as we're getting sponsors who are coming on board and giving us wonderful things like umeshu and shochu, really premium Japanese spirits. We also have, it's not on the page yet, but coming soon is matcha from Wazaka, which is just south of Kyoto. It's actually where Uji tea comes from, so you can get some premium Japanese tea very soon. as well as some great online rewards. So I'm going to be offering like a 1 hour mentorship with documentary filmmaking, and Tiffany is offering a tea experience in Tokyo, as well as some life coaching events. Is there anything I've forgotten, Tiffany?
You
There
said
was
it
a
all. Oh,
kimono
uh,
dressing and photography, isn't there?
yes, the
I
kimono
just read
photo
that
shoot
as well.
experience that we're also doing.
That looks amazing. So I've got the Instagram QR code on the screen right now. I've put loads of links in the chat. We'll of course come back and talk about that more. Great to see Natasha with us and some other people joining for our lunchtime chat. Welcome. Great to have you guys here. So let's talk a little bit about the whole concept of we exist.
Mm.
What is the need for that? Where does this idea come from? Tiffany, you want to talk about that?
Thank you, JJ, for that question. Yeah, like when I first met Felicity, I just wanted to have a collaboration with her because I thought like her work has been amazing, and I've been a voice for the LGBT community because I'm a part of the LGBT community in Japan, and that's how I started my own podcast. And I thought to do more content and also collaborate with other people that I can work with, and that's when Felicity started talking about like, well, how about a documentary, which I never thought about a documentary, and I thought like, oh, that's a great idea. But through my podcast, I met so many amazing activists and people from the community that we can probably feature on the documentary. So I'm not sure if you remember JJ. I used to have a YouTube channel too, like where I interview people, but then like it didn't work well. So I focused on more on my podcast. But then when I started meeting Felicity, we just thought that, yeah, like that let's definitely do this because we need more voices, we need more representation, especially here in Japan because not many people are vocal about the issues about the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah. So, in your Kickstarter page, you've got a great video. So, we've given the link. Everybody can watch that great trailer video. And there you talk about the aims being of the docu-series to inspire,
Hmm.
to share an empathy for diversity in the community, and also to create change, positive change, and awareness.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now you've already finished episode 1 and you had a viewing party. What
Hmm.
has been your learning from doing episode 1? Because now you're doing the Kickstarter, trying to do episode 2. How was creating a whole episode 1 now that you've finished that part?
Why don't you start, Tiffany? What was the experience on your side?
It was so great. Actually, I I I just realized like how I get so empowered whenever I do this kind of work because it's for my community, it's for the community, and um, like just sharing all the narratives about our stories. I think it was such a empowering process for me, and also hearing stories that I haven't heard. Like we went to like rural areas in Japan, like in Matsuyama, where we get to know how it works there, how the system goes, or how they're fighting also for the rights and the legal what was it the Felicity that
The partnership
the
program,
partner,
yeah,
yeah,
the
the
partnership
partnership,
certificate, yeah.
exactly, the partnership also, and it's been amazing that how we got connected with this amazing activist and also politician in Matsuyama, where we get to really get to know more about like like the issues and all that, and it's just great to have and to know all these people, and also of course like working with Felicity, being together and brainstorming, doing a lot of work has been so much fun.
Yeah, we're great collaborators, and I was thinking about this last night because we had uh, like a late night like planning session, as has become increasingly frequent. And I got off the phone. I was like, so glad I'm working with Tiffany, because Tiffany puts in just as much work, if not more. And it's just nice to have somebody who's like your equal like team member working with you. But to your question, JJ, episode 1 was a big learning experience for us. I came up to Tokyo one weekend and we went around to places that Tiffany used to work. We interviewed Mana Tanaka-san, and it was like, what kind of equipment do we need? How do we get to place to place? What questions are we asking? What's the format going to look like? And then when we went to Matsuyama, again, it's just the two of us, a two-person team at that time. We were very lucky. We had Watanabe-san, who is the first transgender city councillor in Shikoku, because she introduced us to people. So with episode 2, because we'll have this budget from all the wonderful supporters through our Kickstarter, we'll be able to hire more people to support us with things like research, translation, reaching out to people, have somebody perhaps with me who's a dedicated sound person. So I can work on the camera, somebody else can be focused on that. Post-production as well, like that's a big part of making a good documentary, color grading, sound, etc. So I'm so happy we did episode 1. We did it ourselves. We funded that completely ourselves, and I'm really proud of it. But I know episode 2 is going to be like that next step up into something a little bit more polished. So I'm really excited.
That's great. Yeah, watching the after interviews after your first showing and all the positive comments from everybody is so wonderful. Also, seeing a lot of great comments here from Hamish Downey.
Hello, Hamish.
Hamish is such a great supporter. Everything I've ever done, Hamish has always been behind me. So thank you so much, Hamish.
And Natasha's even donated a rainbow to us as we are talking.
Oh,
Thank
I
you so
love
much.
that. Thank you, Natasha.
It's amazing. I joined the Kickstarter. I'm happy to be a part of it. It's really an all or nothing effort. Tell us a little bit about the aims and the deadlines again, Felicity.
So the deadline is November 19th, so coming soon, and we're trying to get 1 million yen. The reason for 1 million yen is because the Munakata Foundation came to us and they asked us how much we thought it would cost to make an episode, and we gave them our estimate, and they said, okay, well, if you can raise 1 million yen, we'll give you 1 million yen. So that really put fire underneath us, right, Tiffany? Like, at that point, we were kind of thinking about doing a Kickstarter or a crowdfunding, but everything became a lot clearer at that point.
Yeah, we both didn't have the experience of doing crowdfunding, and we were not sure if it's gonna work or not. But then, like what Felicity said, like the Munakata Foundation, with Mana Tanaka-san, who's been very
Incredibly supportive.
supportive about like our documentary. She's been part like ever from the first episode. So yeah, like it's been such a great collaboration, and like both win-win for all of us.
It's great timing,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing a lot of guiding since last year, and I've had a few same-sex couples. I've had same-sex families come through,
Wow.
like two moms and kids coming through, and then a lot of same-sex men couples coming through, and everybody says how much they love traveling in Japan. They're having a great time. But I remember something really strongly. The European gay couple, they were talking to me, and they said, we feel so lucky to be alive in this time in the world, that we are, even in Europe, we're more accepted than our parents' generation would have been, and how lucky that is. And so Japan is usually, people think of Japan as being like 20 years behind. Let's hope it's not that long, because
Mhm.
it does seem like there's more positive momentum. I don't know. Do you guys feel that this is the right time to be doing this project?
I think so. I think that I'm in a very hopeful, optimistic mindset as well, JJ, that it's not going to be too much longer. We're seeing more media reporting on LGBT families. At the same time, though, 25% of Japan still doesn't have the partnership certificate. The partnership certificate in itself is a weak protection. It is a protection. It is some evidence of a relationship that LGBT couples can use. However, sometimes it doesn't matter if the family pushes against it. disputes it, it can not be as strong as you might think. So Japan, we're hoping, is moving towards same-sex recognition of relationships. A politician recently has been talking a little bit more about it positively, so that's good. We haven't heard that in Japanese politics. Only 5 or 6 years ago, there was a politician in Chiba who was blaming the LGBT for the birth rate declining. No.
But we know same-sex marriage people, couples that have kids, it's
Yeah,
possible.
a
You know,
hundred
it's not
percent.
it's not out it's not, out the realm that they will also be parents, right?
And actually, that's a great connection to our second episode, which is on the theme of family. And we're going to be interviewing Bianca, who is a transgender parent. Tiffany, why don't you talk a little bit more about Bianca?
Sure, yeah. So, I got connected with Bianca during on my podcast. I interviewed her on my podcast, Breakfast with Tiffany show, and when she shared her story about, because I've never heard about transgender parenting, and when she shared her story about like how she's half Filipino, half Japanese, and she was born and raised in the Philippines but moved to Japan, and then eventually had her kid, and we don't want to spoil that more, like all the details, because we want to feature her story on the second episode of the week's. But when I was interviewing her, I was just like so amazed, and like I could have never imagined how she could be a parent, and how the struggles and all that, especially in Japan without all this legal rights. So I thought that that's one very important thing. And another thing that we really want to focus on, the family topic, because I also will share about my family living in Japan. For I've been here for almost 3 decades, and um, family is such an important thing, because a lot of the LGBT community, we look for our safe space, and our safe space are the most important thing. And a lot of us are not accepted by our families. So, this is going to be a great topic for our second episode.
That sounds so good and so important. I just want to give a shout out to a wonderful local organization here in Hiroshima, Hachidorisha Social Book Cafe. And every month she does an event called Seku Maeba. So, talking about welcome, friendly, open, safe space for people to come and just share ideas and feelings about sexual minorities. And it's in collaboration with another local organization called Coco Iro. And Akiba-san, who does she does such amazing events in Hiroshima Social Book Cafe, and she is doing regular peace events. She's a peace activist, but so much of her events at the cafe are really focused on building community. And part of building community and sustainability is inclusion, diversity, and breaking down those barriers of misunderstanding and just getting people in the room together to connect between humans,
Mhm.
and so she has got this great concept. So I hope if you guys have a chance to come to Hiroshima, you'll have a chance to talk to Abiko-san. She's amazing.
That's our goal. Our goal is to come to Hiroshima for the second episode. So definitely, we'll be reaching out. We'd love to connect with anybody in the community in Hiroshima in the preparations for our next episode.
That sounds exciting. I can't wait to be a part of it. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other key people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you talked about Mana Tanaka and her organization, which is matching funds, right?
Tiffany, you've had such a long relationship with Manatanaka-san. Why don't you talk about her a little bit?
Sure. Mana Tanaka-san is such an amazing person. I also met her through my podcast, and she was. I actually met Mana Tanaka-san, by the way, JJ, through a common friend, when I was in Few Japan on the board with Jackie. So Jackie told me how amazing Mana Tanaka-san is and her story. So I got to interview her on my podcast, and we had 2 hours of interview, and I met her in person during COVID. And hearing all her work and the foundation that she does, helping people from the third world countries.
Mhm.
It was such an inspiring like activism, and also the advocacy work that she's been doing with the organization as well. And then we we got more connected, of course, because she's based in Tokyo, and then she introduced me to the amazing organization for Toastmasters, where focused on LGBT community, um, LGBTQ plus community. And I was looking for a place where I can, hone my skills in public speaking and being a leader. And then she connected me there, and because she's one of the first to really organize and form that club, and I became the president of that community. And then she was just so happy, like how everything, like, just connects. And then, like, when we started our documentary, we told her about it, and she's just like so open and so like, sure, I will. Not even hesitating, like, let me think about it. Like, she's just like, every time, like, we ask her about something, like, she's been generous about her time
So
and sharing her
generous.
work.
Yeah, she's so cool. She's one of the coolest people I know. She's so smart, but at the
Very
same
smart.
time down to earth and funny, and just generous, like Tiffany said. So we're so lucky to have a connection with Mana Tanaka-san.
That's wonderful. And here you have Mana Tanaka-san and Hiroyuki Watanabe. Can you introduce about Hiroyuki Watanabe? How does um, their support
Oh,
for this project, how does it intertwine? Was she in the first episode?
yes, Watanabe-san's the best. So Watanabe-san is a city councillor of Matsuyama City in Ehime Prefecture, and she became the city councillor during COVID because she was a small business owner. She was a bar owner, and she was seeing the impact that the COVID restrictions, especially on like drinking establishments, was having. So that was her initial platform that she ran on. But when she got into her position as an openly transgender woman, she became this role model, this pillar of the community. People would come to her and say, I'm part of the LGBT community. I have these concerns, and so she has taken them up. And her real advocacy is the partnership certificate, which is not even uh, available in Ehime at the moment, which is really concerning. That one protection. And Watanabe-san is so, like, again, very generous, knows a lot of people. When I first went to meet her, before we decided on the interview, she was already like, oh, you should meet Buri-san, who's one of the interviewees. You should talk to this person. So thanks to Watanabe-san, we met people, and Watanabe-san's also been part of like the premiere screening in Tokyo and our recent online screening. So very supportive person.
Yeah, I will add to that that I really got connected with Watanabe-sang because she also used to work as as a cabaret performer in Matsuyama. And I used to be a cabaret performer as well here in Tokyo. So, and what's so funny is, like, when there's this one person that she knows that I know that I used to work with. So we were like, it was just like all these connections has been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine there would be some small world subculture
It is a
Mm-hmm.
small
connections
world.
in
Yeah.
Japan, right? Have you found that once you connect to certain people, it just like adds on? Oh, you just meet people all over the place, right?
Exactly, exactly.
I
It's
imagine.
it's not a big community. Like, again, the people, especially LGBT people in Japan. That's why it's so challenging to meet them,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not that. There's not much exposure for them. So there are people who's been vocal on their social medias, but in reality, like even Watanabe-san, we didn't know about her, and when we know about her work, then we were just so amazed about how not just being working in Matsuyama being a counselor, but she's also really working for the LGBT community and making, for the partnership that she's been really working hard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the themes that I think is so important that I've seen in the snippets coming out of the work you're doing for We Exist Japan is the idea that it's not just about Tokyo, that it's about outside Tokyo. It's
Mhm.
about support in the rural
Mhm.
areas. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. That is a huge part of this documentary, is that balance between the two parts of Japan. When we recently showed We Exist in Tokyo, one of the comments that we were hearing from the Japanese community is that they were learning about the experience of uh, being LGBT in countryside Japan. Um, so I personally think it's a really big part, and that it was part of the inspiration of the documentary as well. When I went to Tokushima and I was talking to an older Japanese person, and she was expressing some very strong negative views against LGBT, and it really hit home how hard it must be to be gay or be queer in these communities where conservative mindsets still exist, where being the oldest son is still a huge deal. Um, I think it's a really different world to Tokyo or Osaka, and it's important to show that. What do you think, Tiffany?
Yeah, like the sorry, what I got I got like what was the question again?
Well, just how the reaction and right. I'll give one example.
Mhm.
When I talked to Accessible Japan's Josh Grisdale, and this is
Mhm.
about wheelchair accessibility,
Right.
but
Mhm.
I think there's some common strains here. So he said, once you start making places wheelchair accessible, it's
Mhm.
also accessible for elderly Japanese people.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
also accessible for women and parents who are pushing strollers with kids in it.
Mhm.
So I imagine the kind of work you're doing with We Exist Japan, the kinds of conversations, raising awareness,
Mhm.
it is having positive knock-on effects to issues about women having equal workplace experiences or life. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, in the government right now, they're talking about whether women should be allowed to keep their own name or choose to
Mm-hmm.
keep their own name in the same time as they're talking about allowing same-sex marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So these kinds of conversations often they support each other. It's better for everyone if we allow more protections and
Yeah.
safe places, right?
So what we really noticed, so we did a lot of interviews on public, like strangers on the streets, and we did it in both in Tokyo and in the rural areas. And what we really noticed a lot is people in the rural areas also like they they tend to really not know about the LGBTQ community at all. In Tokyo, you kind of sense that they're like, oh yeah, we know them. But in the rural areas, they have no idea what LGBT, what the meaning of LGBT is, which was, the realization for me. What the big realization for me is, it's not even about tolerance, because in the Philippines, it's more about tolerance for the LGBT community. In Japan is more in ignorance. So they don't know nothing. They don't educate themselves about all these society issues. So I think, yeah, like it's very important to, share stories. And if you're part of the LGBT community and you're listening, share your story. And that's what we're doing with We Exist as well.
Yeah, it's such a good point. And it's not just people in the LGBTQ. I get all those letters mixed up. I'm so sorry.
Mhm.
But it's not just if you're in that community or if you identify, but if you support and you also from the outside, even or from realizing and accepting as someone who doesn't identify that way, that is still very important part of the process, right?
100%. Allies are a big part of the community, a big part of the support structure. Um, Allies can be so active. Mana Tanaka-san told me recently at the Nagoya Pride Festival, um, there was this woman who was waving the flag really strongly, and she's an ally. I think that there has to be a lot of space and a lot of recognition of everybody's work towards building awareness, as Tiffany was saying, so that we can all better understand each other, build that empathy that we're talking about.
Absolutely. And I think, like I said before, once you start building more acceptance and the idea that people are different and that's
Mm,
okay,
yeah,
that helps everyone. That helps people who think they're not skinny enough. That helps people who are worried their skin is not what they
JJ, we
think.
couldn't hear. I couldn't hear you, JJ.
Oh, really? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
yes.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
Maybe you're getting further away from your
Oh, better.
microphone
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah, just the idea that it expands once you start
Hmm.
having a mindset of inclusion and having a mindset that not everyone is the same. And as we are developing more of an international community in Japan, more diversity of how we think about how everyone should live, how everyone should be, how everyone should look,
Hmm.
this is very healthy as we're moving forward, right?
100%.
Let's continue talking about the music. Martin LaRoe, tell us about him.
Oh, Martin's the best. Martin is a close friend of mine. We met a long time ago when we both, when I lived in Ibaraki Prefecture, and he would come visit his partner at that time. And Martin is the most beautiful singer songwriter. Oh my God. When we had the online screening the other night, right, Tiffany? How did people react?
They were just stunned with how. I mean, I know. I also met Martin before even knowing that Felicity knows Martin too. We were like, oh, we both know Martin. Like it was just like small world that how we know Martin.
Mhm.
Because Martin, I used to do a lot of events in Tokyo, and I used to run this bar in Ginza, where it has like a very nice, like luxury atmosphere. And when I met Martin, I thought like, your voice is amazing. I think you should sing at the bar and do some acoustic, and then he just brought his guitar and then like play music, and it was so amazing. And that's how I really fell in love with his work. And then knowing that later on that Felicity was working with him, and then it just came up like, oh, we don't have any song for the documentary. What about like reaching out for Martin? And then when Felicity reached out to Martin, that's how it all started. And yeah, it was just a perfect song also for the documentary.
It was Find the Light. It's one
Hmm.
of it's part of his back catalog, I suppose. He'd already written and produced it, but when we both listened to it, it was just like, this is perfect for the
I
documentary.
cried. I cried when I heard that song, that Finding the Light. Yeah.
Yeah, I cried. I cried during the online screening. I was
Mhm.
so shocked at just how beautiful it was, and I think it was at the perfect point in the evening as well. Like we'd had the kind of opening remarks, and we were settling in to watch the documentary, and then this profound song played, and we all just kind of went, "Whoa, okay, I'm in the mindset now for the documentary."
That's awesome. And I think as a filmmaker, Felicity, you know how important having original music is. A lot
Mm,
of filmmakers and creators, if you use other people's music, even if you share copyright or something, sometimes later on you're trying to sell what
mhm,
you've made and
mm,
it becomes very complicated, right?
mhm, mhm,
So having original score
mhm.
as part of your original product is a really key part of it, right?
It is. Compared with 10 years ago, there's a lot more available. There are websites now called where you can actually find really high quality royalty free tracks. But for episode two, because we'll have this budget, we're actually in talks with a film composer. So we'll have like, more ambient music. Again, we just want to connect with the community a little bit more. And Martin, of course, will be a big part of that going forward as well.
That's fantastic. That's great to hear. I know, Tiffany, you've been a DJ for many years, so music is also very important to you as well, right?
Yes, very important. And music connects to people, like, I mean, of
Mhm.
course, sharing stories is very important, and storytelling is such an important part of the documentary. But yeah, like I think the song Finding the Light, when you hear it, and the documentary, it just connects, and it's connect with
Mhm.
people.
Yeah. Now, another part of your Kickstarter story is how you can be a part of history by supporting this project. Anybody want to talk a little bit about that?
I think it connects with what you were talking about before, JJ. Like, where are we in the journey towards representation in Japan at the moment? Again, I feel hopeful that it's not that far away. But when I speak with Japanese members of the LGBTQ community, sometimes I don't get that sense of like optimism, because there is such a low level of understanding and awareness, particularly in schools, because schools anywhere in the world have this very like rigid mindset of the box that students should be in. LGBT queer students that don't fit in that box really struggle. And that's very true here in Japan as well, especially in middle school, where children are really finding their identities, because there's so little awareness, even amongst teachers, that support network just doesn't exist. So being part of history, uh, even if we exist, is just a small part of that growth of awareness and understanding. I think it is important going forward.
Absolutely. Tiffany, anything you want to add?
That's so great. By the way, to Felicity, I completely agree. And I just remembered while Felicity was saying that when we were having discussion with Mana Tanaka-sang, and she was saying, I was saying like it was like 20, like it takes 20, like what you said, JJ earlier, 20 years to to finally like have that approval, have that legal rights that we're fighting for. Um, but Mana-sang said that it's been quite faster now. Like
Mm-hmm.
probably like we just have to wait 10 years, not 20 years
It's not
anymore. So
10 years.
we're hoping that because of all this social media, like the work that we're doing, raising more people being representing and talking about the narratives. I think let's hope that we can make it into much more faster than 10 years. And I think it's possible. So that's why we wanted to be everyone to be part of this, because I feel like it's not going to be that long. And I think, it's just probably going to be soon. So being a part of the
Mm-hmm.
documentary is one thing that people can be contribute to the community.
And I think that developing that idea that it's always something we're going to keep having to work on, that it's not like, okay, we're there, done, finished, right? It's like all things sustainability. We have to keep reassessing where we are, how we can improve, not going back to, knee jerk reactions and bringing ideas or laws back, which we are seeing happening around the world as well. So this is like something we want to develop strategies for, so that we can keep moving forward, right?
Yeah,
Not just, there is not an end goal,
no.
but this is how we want to keep improving. These are the ways that we see kind of a positive path forward, that kind of
Mhm.
thing, right?
Definitely. I think we can't be too complacent. As you said, like even in, I'm Australian, and even in the States, we see people, there's this flow back and forth. And if you get too complacent, you can lose rights that you've worked hard to gain. Um, and I, coming back to Japan, sometimes when I've spoken with, when I first pitched this series to NHK, one of the comments I got back was like, well, everybody knows about the LGBT. Why is this news? And I could imagine that maybe somebody in Australia might feel that way, because over the past 20 years we've had so much in the media and a build towards this understanding, and you may feel that we've reached some kind of like goal. But when you dig a little bit below the surface, and I would say this is true for Australia as well, I don't know how much people really do understand about the queer experience, how much people know about what everyday struggles or challenges the LGBTQ has, on top of just, the everyday being a human being challenges. So Yeah, you're right. It's something we just have to keep on reminding ourselves of, and talking about, and sharing stories about.
Yeah, absolutely. A great comment here from Natasha. So true. In Canada, we're going backwards. Many people are fighting to remove sex and gender diversity education in our schools, but it has saved lives. I
100%.
remember going years ago, taking students, Japanese students, to Canada,
Hmm.
and it was the first time I saw gender free or genderless or non gender. I can't remember how they termed
Non-binary,
it,
maybe gender
but
fluid.
the restrooms that anybody could use,
Yeah. Ah,
right?
yeah.
And I heard from, local people in the LGBTQ community saying how freeing that was, and I would try to use it too, and it was uncomfortable at first because 'cause you're like, "Okay, everybody's wow, the layout's different," so it's because it's new, everybody has that sense of, like, apprehension, but once you get used to it,
Mhm.
and then it was so I felt so good about it, and I felt like, "Wow, this is something that everybody can do," like, this is a small step, but meaningful step, right?
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Natasha, that was great. Let's talk a little bit about how you're gonna use the funds. You were very clear about this on the Kickstarter page.
Yeah, exactly. So our biggest growth in has been our team members. We've had a lot of people come on board as volunteers, people who've volunteered their time to film the screenings, for example. We have a wonderful videographer in Tokyo, um, translators who've gone through all of our different documents. Um, people who are working in marketing. We have Narelle, who's been helping with our Kickstarter, and she's just, she's working so hard. And everyone, including myself and Tiffany, are just putting our time in for free because we're just trying to keep our documentary alive and keep it going. So paying people is a big goal. And then on top of that, production, hotels, trains, food while we're, in Hiroshima or Osaka. That's going to be a big part of it. And the post production, like the music, the composer, color grading, all of those things. So, yeah, documentaries are expensive.
Yeah. But hopefully it's something you make with really high quality and can be seen and enjoyed and learned from for many, many years, right? That's the idea.
That's definitely the goal. Yeah, we want to make something, and it's been really validating to have so many nice comments about episode one. Um, Mana Tanaka-san, she was just like, it turned out way better than I thought. And I was just like, oh, thanks.
Well, you've had experience making a whole film,
Mm.
right? So you've had experience of how to create quality you can actually people can download that and watch it on professional level. So we're so
Yeah.
lucky to have people like you who are willing to do these projects, Felicity. It's
Uh,
amazing.
yeah, I mean, making a documentary, making a feature film, the basic foundation of both of them is just the story. And so, even though a lot of the nuts and bolts, like organization, the way you actually structure making a film is quite different. When it came to sitting down with the footage that we took, it like Tiffany and I were like talking about it, like what's the story, and how do we go from Tokyo to Ehime, and then we spent 3 days in Tokyo recently together planning out episode two and really thinking about the kind of stories and how to structure the stories. And episode three, if we get to make an episode three, like it's storytelling at the basis. Yeah.
That's great. So you've finished episode one.
Yeah.
Episode two is what your Kickstarter funds are for. So there is, I heard you say it, and I heard Tiffany say it in the preview as well. If we have extra money or more donations in the Kickstarter, that will fund episode three. Or what's your thinking? What's your vision? What would be the ideal? Like 10 episodes or five or 50, 500? What are we talking? just keep going as long as you keep finding
But but
stories. Is that
but the
it?
thing is like these narratives are so important that again, if we don't get to have so many representation and vocal about like like if you Google people who's doing documentary about LGBT, but I don't think someone's doing it. So I think what we really we just came up with the idea because of the first episode, how the result and the feedback from people and comment from people how it's really feeling. And again, like it goes back to every time I do the interviews, I just felt empowered from all these people that we interviewed, and I get inspired of the work that we I can probably do more. And I think this documentary when me and Felicity like sometimes we brainstorm, we thought that this can be a continuous thing.
Mhm.
Like every year we can release one episode. And again, like doing a documentary is not. Many people probably think that maybe that's it's a lot of work. It took us 1 year to release the first episode, so it's a lot of work. But after this first episode, we learned a lot, and it's a learning process. But I think there's more stories I think that needs to be heard, and we need to do that work, I guess. So,
Yeah, we could go on. We've already talked about it could expand beyond Japan.
mhm.
You know, we'd love to do a season in Japan. I'm not sure how many episodes, but like maybe 6 to 10. We'd love to see different parts of Japan. I mean, there's so many great places. It could go on forever. But definitely, I mean, Japan is not the only country where the LGBT community struggles to have a voice. Um, so there's been light kind of discussions. Not really going to go into too much detail yet, but we're kind of hoping that that could be a possibility in the future.
That's exciting.
It is,
Um,
yeah.
so series the episode one that you've already finished was focused on, you said, relationship. No,
Mhm.
episode two is, oh, number
Family.
one is relationships, and partnership certificate and family is episode two. Is that
Hmm.
right?
That's right. Yeah.
That's exciting and very important issues. So if somebody joins the Kickstarter,
Hmm.
can they watch episode one already? Is it available somewhere?
It's not available online yet. We're going to have lots of screenings, and a lot of those are in Japan at the moment, but we'll be aiming to have more ones in other countries. We're in the film festival circuit, but if they get the anything over 3,000 yen, they will get access to the links. So episode one link, and when we finish episode two, so that can be a good way to watch it and enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. That's just over about 20 US dollars at the moment with the current exchange.
And actually, we're getting
Hey,
a lot.
bargain.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of backers per, selecting that reward, like access to first
It's
episode and
the
second
most
episode.
popular,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's a great way to do it. I love that. Another great, important comment from Natasha. It's important to tell our own stories
Hmm.
instead of always being someone from the outside the
Yeah.
community. That's so important.
Hmm.
We were talking about the importance of allies, of course, but when you talk about your own stories, of course, you want to be coming from within the community, and that's what you're doing so well, Tiffany, with all these wonderful interviews, right?
Yes, it's been inspiring to hear different stories from not just in Japan, but also like my podcast is, like I interviewed people from UK, from the States, from Australia, from different places. So it's been really inspiring, and also you gain information like what we've discussed earlier about the like what Felicity said earlier about like in the US and like in Canada, even like they're taking all this back, but then we don't even have it yet in Japan. So I think yeah, like hearing stories from them,
Hmm.
it inspires us to what we can do in order for us to achieve what they achieved.
Yeah, for sure. I love watching you guys with your updates on social media here. You're traveling around the country together by train. And I love this picture because your beautiful smiles, but also your reusable water. canister. Thank you so much for reducing plastic waste.
Yes, very
I
important.
always I
Yes.
always have my my own.
I'm looking around for mine at the moment. Where
Thank
is
you
it?
so
I
much.
never buy like those pet bottles, like like in
Got
Yay.
my giant
Let,
one.
let's all keep asking. You
Mhm.
know, it's
Yeah.
hard to fill up in Japan still, but you gotta try,
And
right?
also, JJ, I would say I always bring my own chopsticks too.
Yes, good.
She does.
Bring
Yeah.
bring your own chopsticks, your own water refill, and
An
use
echo bag.
eco
Yes.
bag, and always ask, can I have this without the plastic, or can
Hmm.
I just eat this here, or can I get a mug? You know,
So it's
there's lots of
simple.
little hacks.
Yeah.
Use my Mizu, the app, to
Mm.
find
My
where to
Mizu is
fill up.
amazing. Yeah.
There's even Google is starting to show where we can fill up now. So
No
yeah,
way. That's
I
amazing.
always enter a nice water refill spot, so you can too. Yeah,
That's a good
That's why
tip.
that's why I
yeah.
always love watching your show, JJ, because I always get to learn a lot about sustainability, and you've been doing such amazing work for sustainability in Japan. So
Oh,
yeah.
thank you. But it's not, I mean, that's why I mentioned it, because it's not just about the environment. It's about people. It's about
Mm.
the economy. It all ties in together. It all
Everything's
works together
connected.
beautifully,
Hmm.
right? Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. We have about less than 10 minutes left. We've had a great discussion. You guys are awesome. I appreciate all the work you're doing. Activism, starting something new, creativity, film, media, content creation. Anything we haven't touched on yet that you really want to mention?
I really appreciate Natasha's comment about the film festival because that's something that we're looking into. So I've copied that. So I'll definitely be looking into that one.
Oh,
Has,
that's awesome.
yeah.
Very important. International collaboration. Have you also pitched the idea or shown episode one to Netflix or one of the majors that maybe might back you and a future international version of what you're doing?
Right. I
There's
actually said that during our first documentary premiere screening in Tokyo, that our goal is to be on Netflix. We want to be on Netflix. So if you know anyone, if anyone watching here on the JJ show, Seek Sustainable Japan, if you know anyone from Netflix or even any platform that you think that
Mhm.
we can put our this documentary, the docu series, we will appreciate it, and I think we need more connections. We've been using our connections, but it's also good to know
Mm,
um other people's connections.
absolutely.
exactly. And just community groups in general. Coming back to the
Mm.
Kickstarter, um, if anybody has suggestions about an interested group that uh, might want to support a Kickstarter like us, one of my friends, she works for a company and they have like a section for LGBT support and encouragement within her company, and so she's forwarded it to them. Um, so any groups that we just may not know about, please like reach out to us on our Facebook uh, or our Instagram. I think is probably the best way. We exist Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. Tiffany's on LinkedIn. Uh, be part of our community. That would just be so helpful for us.
That's fantastic. And even watching this episode, learning about this project, sharing the video with others,
Hmm.
Absolutely, yeah.
liking, subscribing,
Yeah.
Felicity, you've got great short blurbs from the next episode, from the last episode. So if people like and share those videos as well to actually see the
Hmm.
content that you've been creating and what's upcoming.
Yeah.
Um, Tiffany, you also talking about it on your podcast, I imagine.
I absolutely do. Every time. Yeah. Not just on my podcast, on my all my social media platforms, I definitely use my voice and sharing the information about the documentary.
And any other podcasters out there, if you'd like to interview
Yes,
Felicity
please.
and Tiffany, they are
Hmm.
fantastic guests, like
Hmm.
you see now. So reach out, and
Yes,
there's
please.
lots of ways to support, right?
So many ways to support. Yeah, all of the sharing, putting it on on LinkedIn, putting it on Instagram. Some people have written personal, like their own little personal introductions to what we've been doing, which is just so great that people are taking that extra step, that extra amount of time. We appreciate that so much.
I think that makes a big difference,
It
right?
does, yeah.
Especially to their followers. Now, it looks like you got a big group of support. Was this after the showing of episode one?
Yeah, that's the day that where Felicity couldn't make it, like on our first screening in Tokyo.
I got
But
sick.
yeah, but we were so grateful for all the people's support, and I think it was a balance between the people from the community and also the allies. That really they both came. It was a balance between both that they really supported, and not just that first premiere screening, and also we did another screening in Tokyo with a different community, which is part of the was doing such an incredible work with a community called Waifu and Iwakan. They have an amazing organization in Tokyo, where they wanted us to screen our documentary. And then when we did also the online thing, we were just like we never expected that so many people would turn and do like be on the online for the screening, and it was such a successful event that we did, and that was the first time. But all these are first, but it's been great and amazing.
That's awesome. I'll put that link below. Thanks, Felicity. But also, one of the other ideas I think we haven't touched on yet was about we talked about it's not just Tokyo, but one
Mm-hmm.
of the things in the trailer that you were talking about is a lot of people have the image that these issues are only for abroad. They're
Mm-hmm.
not. They don't concern Japan, but they definitely do, and that's one of the impetuses of this whole series, right? You want to talk on that for a minute?
Yeah, that's like recently we've been connected with elderly Japanese members of the queer community. So that was at a time where you just really couldn't talk even to your family at all. So the idea that Japan doesn't have its own LGBT, its own queer community, um, I think it's convenient for politicians, but it's definitely not. It's definitely not the case.
You must have come across like a generational shift, Tiffany, in all your years living and working here in different segments of society, right?
Yes, yes. It's there's so much changes, and but the thing is, like, I also learn, like, for example, that community, the wife of community. I actually met them. I actually went to their party last year, and that's how I get to know the people. And it was so surprising to me that I didn't know anyone in that community, but a majority of them are very young. And I told myself that I need I need this community to know about me before the release of the documentary, so then we can share this documentary. And for some reason, like one the organizer herself came to the premiere screening in Tokyo, and then she was just like so surprised by the documentary that we made, that she wanted this to be on on their party, on their organization to screen. So I think, yeah, like it's just like, I don't know, like so many amazing connection. It's just like we were always like blown away with like all like this, because I think it's not just the people that we know, it's also what we attract, because we need these stories to be heard. So I really think that we're doing good for the community.
Yeah. And to be grateful for the path that they have beaten to make it easier for this
Mm-hmm.
generation too, right?
100%. That's so true. And you see that even you see that in Australia as well. And recently on Netflix, a wonderful series came out. Um, oh, why can't I remember? It's one of my favorites. Uh, anyway, it's a beautiful drama about two young, like high school boys who fall in love, and a lot of the comments from older LGBT have this bittersweetness to it. Like, I'm so happy that this exists, but why wasn't it there for me? You know, um, and yeah, we have to respect the struggles that those came who came before us had.
And we hope that they feel appreciated for
Hmm.
their struggles, which make it a little bit easier, hopefully, for the future generations, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that is our time. Thank you both so much. It seemed to
Thank
go by
you.
very quickly, but maybe after the release of episode 2, we can have you back. We
That would
can
be
talk
amazing.
about what's next then.
That would be so much fun. Thank you so much, JJ. Like all your support, giving us this platform, being there for the long run. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank
My pleasure. I'm
thank
so
you so
glad
much,
it worked
JJ.
out.
Yeah, you've been incredibly inspiring to me, like doing your work also. So thank you so much for doing what you do.
Right back at you, both of you. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Such great comments and supportive suggestions. Wonderful to have you with us today. And if you're watching a replay, you can always write your comments and questions below, and we will definitely respond. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks, Natasha.